A good appearance is everything, a direct reflection of your business. But now you also need to ensure your employees and customers that you are providing a safe environment in which to work and do business. To keep and stay clean, team up with High PSI, Chicago's leading source on industrial cleaning equipment, accessories, and service. High PSI sells clean with the biggest selection and highest quality of industrial cleaning and pressure washing equipment in the Midwest. And now selling Vital Oxide, a hospital-grade, safe EPA-registered disinfectant cleaner. This product can be applied with a spray, wipe, mister, or electrostatic foggers that actually wrap surfaces with disinfectants or sanitizers. Vital Oxide kills MERS, SARS, flu, and COVID. High PSI for industrial cleaning solutions. Keep your business clean with accessories and supplies, repair service, and rentals. Call now, 630-893-0777 or highpsi.com. High PSI, they sell clean.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com.
7:37, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and Jim.
Traffic on the eastbound Eden Spurs a little bit heavier this morning. We see stop-and-go delays from Waukegan Road to the Edens. That work is scheduled until the 17th of this month. The Edens itself, 15 minutes. Lake Cook to Montrose, outbound 15 as well. And spur delay will cost you about 4 minutes. Inbound Kennedy, traffic's tight Canfield to Nagel, 22 minutes. O'Hare to downtown, outbound 20. Inbound Eisenhower, traffic slows First Avenue to Des Plaines Avenue. 29 minutes, 390 to downtown. Outbound it's 28. Inbound Stevenson, got a 2-minute delay western to the Ryan. Inbound Ryan, traffic bunches up Cermak Circle, 20 minutes, 95th Street to downtown Chicago. Inbound Mission Ford, just a little residual congestion approaching the merge. And that's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Jim, thank you. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Watch out for a severe thunderstorm developing later in the day today. Otherwise, partly sunny, hot and humid, high 92. 78 at O'Hare. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the Alpha Wealth Group, bringing the trilogy of estate, tax, and investment planning together. Visit alphawealthgroup.com for a free report.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, and Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos echoing the president's words about encouraging and incentivizing through strings on federal dollars school district officials around the country to reopen schools for in-student learning in the fall.
Well, like the president said today, there is no excuse for schools not to reopen again and for kids to be able to learn again full-time. The data doesn't suggest anything different. The medical experts aren't suggesting anything different. And as you pointed out in your opening statement, this is more an issue of adults who are more interested in their own issues than they are about serving their students. It's very clear that kids have got to go back to school.
That was during her appearance on Tucker Carlson, Vice President Pence echoing the president's and the Secretary of Education's words.
But what we heard again yesterday from education officials and what we heard from the American Academy of Pediatrics, it's absolutely essential that we get our kids back into classroom for in-person learning. We can't let our kids fall behind academically, but it's important that the American people remember that for children that have mental health issues, for special needs children, for nutrition, for children in communities facing persistent poverty, the school is the place where they receive all those services. And so this is not just simply about making sure our kids are learning and they're advancing academically, but for their mental health, for their well-being, for their physical health, for nutrition. We got to get our kids back to school.
And we have to get them off computers, really.
Learning by computer is not as good as learning in the classroom. Our schools, we want them open in the fall.
Is there learning going on in the classroom in so many school districts? Why are conservatives so excited, so aggressive in pushing a reopening of schools? Why do we want to send the majority of kids who attend public schools in this country back to totalitarian re-education centers? Anybody ever think of that? What are you sending them back to learn exactly? I mean, even math is force-fed through the racial prism in big city school districts like Seattle. So why are you rushing to encourage the schools to reopen? Why not let it why not stay silent? I don't know. Take it up with the teachers union and your local school district. It's a local issue.
Well, this is a teachers union dream. I mean, now they can, strong arm their government officials saying we need smaller classroom sizes. It's what they've wanted all along.
And so why would Republican politicians, particularly at the federal level, weigh in on this? Why run interference for your enemies, your political enemies? I mean, that's what the teachers unions are. That's what the educrats are. Why run the interference? You know what K through 12 education has become in this country. You know who's in charge of it. You know whose interests are being served, those in charge of it, not the kids. So have this be a teachable moment for the parents in these school systems. What about that thought? Somebody else who's had that thought besides me is our friend David Harsanyi over at National Review, where he's a senior writer. He's also the author of the book First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun, From the Revolution to Today. David, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, you suggest, in no uncertain terms, we should be talking about leveling the public schools, not reopening them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that they've done a lot of damage to this country in two ways, especially considering the moment. I think that we've created a bunch of civic illiterates. We see that in the civics tests that they can't pass, and we see that in every poll, especially the younger you get, the less you know about American history and civics. And on the other end of things, they create segregated neighborhoods. They create segregated schools, and then they protect them in every way, not just when it comes to vouchers, but when it comes to in most big city school districts, when it comes to charter schools or any kind of real choice for parents. So I think it's a problem on both ends.
Well, how do we fret out systematic racism? I hear that word one more, or that phrase. I'm going to tear out my spleen with a rusty spoon.
Well, they're a big part of that because they want to keep minority kids in terrible, failing schools with bad teachers. So I would say the best way to start is to attain that and to help people get out of bad situations is to let them get better educations elsewhere.
But instead, what's going to happen when they return to school is the curriculum will be even more racialized than it was previously, and now you're going to have Nicole Hannah-Jones' army of diversity consultants, Robin DiAngelo's book being required reading, and it's going to be just more of what was insinuating itself into the classroom prior to the shutdowns. So again, this is so exciting to get the kids back to school, to not play sports, and to sit and be force-fed Robin DiAngelo's intellectual bilge.
Yeah, but I mean the problem is that most people can't afford to send their kids elsewhere, so they have to, and they need to get their kids out of their house because they're,
they got to go to work.
They got to go to work, right? They got to live their lives. Rich people don't have that concern, and they already have good school districts because they can buy into those neighborhoods. So it's really sort of middle-class kids and poor kids who are suffering, and they're going to go to school, and it's going to be a bad situation. But being at home for a year straight or whatever is going to be a bad situation as well.
I love this sentence in your piece at nationalreview.com. It's just such a simple way to describe the folly of the entire concept behind how we do K through 12 education. You write, the entire dynamic is driven by the antiquated notion that the best way to educate kids is to throw them into the nearest government building. If you describe K through 12 education like that, which is a fair description, how many people would actually raise their hand rather than all of this flowery rhetoric about kids in our future and we're doing this and that and we're all kid-centered, and which is all lies. It is all union agitprop.
Right. I mean, you can buy like 25 streaming movie services for your house, but you can't pick the school your kid goes to, and it's like you can buy anything from anywhere around the world online within minutes. but you're not allowed to send your kid to another school, that the government doesn't have within your district borders typically. Now, that's, I think, a problem because obviously, it's a lot of one-size-fits-all education, and you have kids with all kinds of different needs and all kinds of different personalities, and you need different kinds of teachers, but you don't get that.
And now one of the other threats to educational choice is not only the teachers' unions, but the lockdown policies jeopardizing the financial integrity of private schools that are still, to some extent, to not as much extent as they want, thanks to the Supreme Court decision yesterday, but to some extent under the control of their state and local governments. And so if they can't reopen or they can't meet the public health requirements to reopen, and maybe even if they can in the fall, you're still going to have attrition there because they just can't survive without the tuition that's paid. They can't provide scholarships for kids to come to those schools without benefactors. And now some of those benefactors may be gone, and parents who send their kids to private schools may be gone because, the economic hit they took during the lockdown.
Absolutely. The schools will always survive. They'll always get their money from taxpayers. It's not the case for private schools who have to lure students there with actual results, et cetera. So it's potentially a very bad situation for people who care about school choice.
And the other one other development in the last week that I thought was particularly noxious, and it's a reminder because I know there's a lot of school choice advocates that treat opportunity scholarships, real private choice, the same way as they treat charter schools. And I'm all for the collegiate model, public and private competing against one another, anything to advance competition. So I'm a proponent, but I also hesitate to be full-throated like I am with private schools because a lot of these charter schools are underwritten by leftist benefactors. I mean, we've got one in Illinois that was underwritten by our leftist governor, J.B. Pritzker, for example. And when push comes to shove, they will bend the knee to the cultural Marxists. And I'm talking about the KIPP charter schools in New York that are discarding their motto being work hard and be nice, because that is clearly too controversial in these times, that it's clearly too dismissive of the notion that we don't live in a true meritocracy. It doesn't contemplate the complicated nature of class and economics and race in this country. So work hard and be nice has to be scrapped, and knowledge is power is doing it voluntarily.
Not just be nice. I agree with you on charters. I think in general, but I think when you have charters and they're somewhat successful, in a way you're convincing people that the underlying idea of being able to go to another school or send your kid to a different school than the one right down the block is a good one for them to embrace and normalize the idea that you don't have to just be able to walk to your school. So I agree with you in general. They're basically controlled by the public school systems, basically by the far left that run those cities. So they're not great oftentimes in Denver and elsewhere that I've seen them. But I still think that the idea is good, and hopefully that germinates and causes more.
I agree with that. So let's go to this, in my view, much overhyped letter in Harper's Magazine, mostly signed by leftists calling for an end to the cancel culture before the cancel culture brings about their end. And the ink wasn't even dry in that letter before there was an ironic backlash, which resulted in some of the signatories, including a Tufts University professor and some trans activist writer,
they thought it was transphobic,
to apologize, to call for their name to be removed from the letter, to report the trans activist reported Matt Iglesias, not exactly a conservative, over at Vox.com, reported him to Vox.com because the trans activist didn't feel that Vox.com was still a safe space because of Matt Iglesias' signature on that letter. Unfortunately, I just am not particularly persuaded or impressed by the letter, which includes all sorts of cheap shots against Trump and quote-unquote right-wingers. And number two, It's just, as Tyler Cohen observed, it's just very Straussian in nature. It really dances around the fundamental issue because they're just trying to say, just protect me, just leave me alone. And I also want to signal to the right that the left is doing something so we don't come across as, completely lobotomized Jacobins. But it doesn't really do anything to advance the notion of America being a society that respects free thought and free speech.
No, it doesn't. First of all, it's just insane. Let me put it this way. So the letter is garbage, right? It's just milk. I mean, it doesn't say anything real. It's just they wrote it because they assumed there wouldn't be a sane person on earth who could disagree with that sentiment, and especially on the left. And then there's tons of people who disagree with it. So I thought the letter was useless when I first read it. But now I think it shows how incredibly far many progressives have gone as far as cancel culture goes, as far as just the rejecting basic liberal ideals of American society, that people should be able to voice their opinions and have open discourse and not be canceled for having simply a position that doesn't comport with everything the far left says. So I think the letter's been somewhat useful in showing how ridiculous things have gotten. But I mean, I agree with you as far as the letter goes, and Tyler Cohen, or I think is his name, wrote on his blog that the letter itself didn't even really embrace the case for open discourse as it should.
But don't you think it's a little too late? I mean, shouldn't they have written that letter 5 years ago if they're ever going to write that letter?
How about 35 years ago? Yeah.
I don't know. 5 years ago, they were still scoffing at the idea that cancel culture even existed.
Right.
Like Nancy Pelosi. 35 years ago, I think that we actually still shared or pretended to share in the idea that everyone should have a say or shouldn't be canceled simply for having a say. I mean, Noam Chomsky's on that letter. I was defending Noam Chomsky yesterday. This is like incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible. Although, I mean, just in terms of the run up to this. 3 decades ago, we were witnessing the dawn of speech codes on campus. Donna Shalala was up at University of Wisconsin being a pioneer with speech codes.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, it's just people have no perspective. Oh, this just happened out of nowhere. No, it's been happening gradually and now with increased rapidity over the last several years. Maybe another good thing from this letter, though, is some of the signatories. Now you go back to them and say, oh, okay, well, hey, Lin-Manuel Miranda over there at Hamilton needs some help because he's about to be canceled for not taking slavery seriously enough for for goodness sakes. And so I want to hear everybody who signed that letter rally to the defense of Lin Miranda and against his detractors.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I read, CNN had a piece that listed all kinds of phrases that are racist that you don't even know are racist, that they didn't even know were racist a week before they wrote the piece because they actually used the words that were on the list. And now anyone who uses them is racist. So it's like such a rapid evolution of what we're allowed to talk about and not talk about. And people are, I think a lot of people are just scared. They're scared to say anything. I mean, I'm protected because I happen to work at a conservative publication. But if I was a regular academic or something, I'd be pretty nervous.
No question. James Lindsay, founder of New Discourse, is again somebody we've talked to on the show. He identifies as somebody who's center left. He has a great distillation on the whole anti-racist movement, which is if you're not familiar with it, just have your kids when they get back to school bring it home and tell you what they learned in school because they're going to be familiar with it. Here's his summation. You must understand racism and admit that you cannot understand racism. You must admit to your complicity in racism and pledge to do better, knowing that it is impossible to do better. You must be an ally, but accept that you always do your allyship wrong. Sure, no problem.
It's like in that CNN piece I was just talking about, they say that some of the words that they mention, and they say, actually, this doesn't have anything to do with Black Americans or slavery. However, subconsciously when you use it, because the word black is in there and it's in a negative connotation, you are being a racist. So if I'm born a racist because of my skin color and I'm subconsciously a racist every time I say the word black, I don't know how I'm supposed to fix that. I just don't understand how we can redeem ourselves in their worldview.
You know how you fix that? You buy 1,000 copies of Robin DiAngelo's book, and maybe 1,000 copies of Ibram Kendi's too. That's how you redeem yourself. David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review and author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun from the Revolution to Today. Dave, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
If you're talking about it, Dan and Amy are talking about it. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available. For information, visit Illinois Concealed Carry Training online at icct.us. That's icct.us.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry training programs are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. 16 and 3-hour renewal classes available weekends and weekdays.
Reduced class sizes for the near term, so space is limited. Register today at icct.us. icct.us. That's icct.us.
Some restrictions are being lifted and many beaches and pools are opening, but you gained some weight while stuck at home. You know, the COVID-19. You can lose that fat quickly with NJ Diet since it only takes 40 days to lose 20 to 50 plus pounds. Their contractually guaranteed program starts with bioenergetically personalized supplements based on your hair, saliva, and blood work. Then NJ Diet uses DNA testing to create your ideal diet plan and workout regimen. You're fully monitored by their certified staff. You also get the doctor's personal email and phone number. NJ Diet is all natural, no shots, no hormones, and no surgery. And there's absolutely no reason to delay losing weight and getting back into shape for the summer. You don't even have to leave your home to do so. Visit njdiet.com or call 855-5NJ-DIET to schedule your live online video consultation today. That's 855-5NJ-DIET or go to njdiet.com.
So this is a true story. Quarantine 2020. My buddy is trying to convince his 8-year-old daughter to finish her spelling in the midst of their homeschooling. She's begging to go outside and play. So she says with confidence, "Dad, hello, H-E-L-O. I've got spelling down." What I took from the story was, teachers are crazy awesome. They're just built with some advantages that allow them to educate our kids in awesome ways. But at our Faith and Family Mortgage team, we're blessed with a pretty special advantage in our world. Our team is lucky to be an arm of a bigger company that is a direct lender, which means our company gets to use its own money and make its own decisions within its own walls, an advantage that often allows us to get you a better rate, saving you monthly and lifelong money on a refinance or new home purchase. We are United Faith Mortgage.
We pay your appraisal.